Hello, welcome. It's Kim Howerton. Happy to be with you today on this live stream. And yeah, what's going on? Wearing my green shirt today. Went for the green. I was wearing the blue shirt. In the last minute, I went for the green. These are the deep thoughts of Kim this afternoon. And my hair has reached the length at which I'm doing a wonderful Marilyn Quayle impersonation. Those of you that are younger than 40 do not get the reference, but those of you who remember the Dan Quayle vice president era, his wife wore her hair in a little flip. And everything about my hair flips except this one, not flipping. Okay, I can make it flip. Anyway, it's not an intentional thing, it's just the length of the hair. My hair cutter guy, John, moved to Costa Rica. And so he comes through town. He comes back every couple months and does haircuts, and I get them then. But it can mean sometimes we're left in an awkward hair length position. I don't hate it. It's just a very, it has so many associations for me about Marilyn Quayle. It's amazing how she made that hair popular. But she actually did it, I think, on purpose. This is just what my hair does. No round brush has been employed to get the flip. Anyway, I am glad to be here with you. This is not a hairdressing channel. Hey, Miriam. Indigo says my hair is at the same length. Well, it's like, have you ever seen those images of you hold a baby down to touch grass and their legs go, because the grass feels prickly. It's like, that's what I feel like my hair does. It's like, oh, look, the shoulders are approaching. So there we go. I'm glad you. Thank you for the compliment, Melinda. It's just a funny thing about my hair. I tried on bathing suits yesterday. In front of my boyfriend. It's very interesting trying on bathing suits in front of your boyfriend when you are somebody who I can gravitate towards a nice skirted suit. Because the skin on my thighs, I am not in approval of the skin on my thighs. And then he's like, put the other suit on. And I have an old suit that's more traditional. It doesn't have a skirt. And it's actually a little bit big because that was from when I was bigger. Anyway, it's a traditionally a suit. I don't know what to say. A normal suit that doesn't have a skirt. And I put it on and he's like, that one is so much better. And I was like, oh, the thighs and the this and the that. And I don't have anything covering this thing that I never got rid of at my belly button where the skin got stretched out and then it makes a little lump. And he's like, in that swimsuit, I can see how your waist comes in, and I can see that he's like, your shoulders look so broad. It looks like you actually swim athletically, and yeah, you got loose skin, but in the skirt, I assume you have loose skin too because you're trying to cover the loose skin. And it was just really interesting to hear his perspective on the bathing suit. Well, in this one, I can see how much weight you lost. And yeah, I can see you got a little roll that he doesn't sugarcoat it. He's like, yeah, you got a little thing there and a little there and it's a little floopy there, but you look great. And in the other one, I'm like, I think you look great, but I can't really tell. And I was like, God darn it. Anyway, we're discussing the bathing suit thing. He has a perspective and he's often right. The thing he did say though was nobody's looking at you. And I'm like, everyone is looking at me all the time. I know it. And he's like, nobody cares, Kim. Wear the suit. Anyway, so he's good and bad for me, right? He's like just a reality check. We have known each other for 29 years. We've known each other for 29 years. So he knows me pretty well. Sometimes unfortunate. Anyway, so anybody else struggling? Swimsuits struggle? Yes? No? All right. Yeah, it is hard out there. Anyway. And I have I have a suit that I've actually liked for a couple of years, and it's just gotten like a little stretched out in the boobs. It was never very. It was like kind of like a bandeau with like a necktie, and now it like it because that elastic is kind of stretchy in the boob area, so like it kind of pulls on the neck, and then also I'm like my. Use the T word. My boobies are gonna fly out of here at any moment if I do any sudden motion. And he was like, I know you're uncomfortable, but I also want you to think that people watching you in that suit are, he's like, well, they're either excited or uncomfortable because they're all like waiting to see when one of your boobs falls out of that top. And I was like, that's not what I want. So that should not be worn anymore. Anyway. Yeah, it's the struggle is real for sure. For sure, for sure. Anyway. Yeah. That was my last night. And then, but cause he's so like I brag. Anyway. He's like, but there's a thread sticking out here. Give it to me. Like I took it off. I gave it to him. He's like, oh no, I can't just cut that off. I got to sew it. So he's sewing actually put it through the machine. Fixed an edge because it's an old suit. So it's nice. I got a seamstress in the house. I guess it's a seamster. What's the male? I know seamstress is female. Whatever. He doesn't care. I found out he knows how to sew when I was a teenager because we've known each other forever. And somebody had bought me a sewing machine as a gift because I was into like clothing. And I thought, oh, I'll learn to sew. And then I never learned to sew because I'm a little bit I can hand stitch pretty well, but I'm intimidated by the sewing machine, which time I discovered he knows how to use a sewing machine. And so I gave him the sewing machine and now he does it all. He grew up in Panama, in the Canal Zone. And so he is very self-sufficient. So he knows how to do things. It's irritating sometimes, I will tell you how capable that man is. Sometimes I'm like, I would like to be better at something. Anything. I do more of the cooking because I like cooking, but like I have an awareness that like he's better than I am. I'm more entertaining, sort of. Anyway, I'm more social. I'll take that. There's not much. I gotta scrape the bottom of the barrel. He's a little bit of a hermit. That's it. I like attention a little more. That's it. Because nobody knows how great he is unless I tell you about it. Because nobody's met him. He stays home. Anyway, now we're getting into the nitty gritty. All right. Somebody asked me an actual legitimate question, or I'm just gonna keep going on about ridiculous things in my life. Miriam, I feel that. Oh, Miriam, you have many qualities. Many good qualities. Many. Cherie says, so hard to find any suits I like or wear. Good luck on your search. I know. I'm self-conscious about my body, you guys. I am. Like, I have lost 100 pounds. I get. Sky, I'm just blathering about nonsense, to be perfectly honest. I haven't missed anything other than my own swimsuit shopping trials. But I am self-conscious about my loose skin. All of that, the rolls, the whatever. Meh. Anyway, Miriam said, how do I feel about affirmations? I struggle, Miriam. I struggle. Like, you know, looking in the mirror and being like, I am beautiful. I struggle. I struggle. Jujubee, I'm a sundress swimsuit personally. Yeah, I hear you, Jujubee. Sky is going al fresco in the backyard. Temu. Okay, I'll look them up, Karen. All right. Cheryl has an actual question instead of us talking about swimsuits. So let's get into that. Cheryl said, how long does it take to get into ketosis? It depends. So what is required to get into ketosis? So we have a body, and we have in our body, we are generally, before we're keto, right? Our body is primarily, our metabolism primarily uses carbohydrates as our main energy source. And so when that happens, when carbs are kept high enough, we produce a certain degree of insulin to deal with the carbs. So our insulin is a little higher, carbs are a little higher, Insulin is a little higher. And then that keeps us out of ketosis. So you have to get your carbs low enough and the insulin down a little bit to bring on the condition of ketosis. And that will generally happen when you're eating, at a level of carbohydrates that for your body signal your body's need to make glucose. So, people will poo-poo gluconeogenesis. They'll be like, gluconeogenesis is so bad. It's when your body turns protein into carbs and then all the no. All right. So ketosis is I'm sorry. If you're going to be in ketosis, gluconeogenesis is a requirement or you will die. So say thank you, gluconeogenesis. I appreciate you. Anyway, so what happens is you go into ketosis when your body has disposed of a sufficient quantity of glycogen stores. So you ingest glucose and your body shuttles away glucose into your liver, and then your liver calls it glycogen. Glycogen is just the stored form of glucose, because we can only have, around 1 plus a tablespoon of sugar in our bloodstream at a time. All the other sugar that we eat goes into our liver and other areas to store as glycogen, muscle primarily and liver. Those are the two spaces. But liver glycogen is sort of that gauge that tells the body about ketosis. And just depending on how fast your body processes these foods, the healthier you are, the faster you will likely to get into ketosis. So long answer short, somewhere between 12 and 72 hours for most people is enough to get them into ketosis. Some people, it might be even longer. So it just generally, you want to keep your carbs at a level. If you want to be in ketosis, first you want to keep the carbs low enough to get there, and then you want to keep them low enough to stay there. So that's how you get into and stay in ketosis. Sky, so a real question. All right. I've been struggling with the math on 80-20 ratios. What I get in the numbers reflects that I just cannot figure out how to figure them out. So many dang numbers. All right. So you don't speak math. All right. Let me tell you the math. All right. So 80-20, those are percentages, right? So if you wanted to be 80% fat. So let's say you don't eat any carbs. Like everybody eats a few carbs just because, muscle meat even has just like percentages of carbs, and eggs have a little teeny bit of carbs. We're going to just forget about the carbs for now and just say like protein and fat, right? So let's say you ate 1,000 calories. This is not a suggestion for anyone to eat 1,000 calories. That is not enough calories for most people. That being said, it's an easy math number. So if I were eating 1,000, okay, I'll do 2,000. We'll do 2,000 calories a day because that just sounds more reasonable. So 2,000 calories in a day. And I was trying to eat 80% fat. I'm not suggesting you eat 80% fat. This was just a question I was asked. So I'm going to do the math for you. So what's 80% of 2,000? We're going to 0.8 times 2,000. That's 1,600. So if you're eating 2,000 calories at 80-20, so 80% fat, 20% protein, your 2,000 calories are 1,600 calories of fat and 400 calories of protein. So then how do you figure out how many grams that is? Well, easy is that you can use 9 for fat and 4 for protein. So if you divide the 400 calories that you're getting from protein by 4, that means you're eating 100 grams of protein, because there are 4 calories per gram of protein. You divide the 1,600 by 9, because there are 9 calories per gram of fat. So that means that person is getting 178 grams of fat. So if you're trying to eat 80%, 20%, 80-20 at 2,000 calories, that would mean it's 100 grams of protein, and 178 grams of fat. Because these percentages are based on calories, those absolute gram numbers are going to change depending on your caloric intake. Now, that just lets us know, right? But you can look at it if you want to just be eating at that 80-20 ish. You can see that on the one hand, we've got 100 grams of protein, and on the other end, you've got 178 grams of fat. And so you can see that it's close to 2-1, right? And in fact, if you were trying to eat 85% fat, that's about 2-1 in terms of grams. So if you were eating 2 grams of fat for every 1 gram of protein, you're eating about 85%, and you're carnivore-ish. You're going to be eating around 85% fat. Do I think that's best for most people? Probably not. So surprise ending there. But for some people, it is great. So back to Sky here. I have felt much better eating higher fat than how I felt eating higher protein. I am definitely one of those who cannot eat all the BBE till full. And if I eat 3 meals a day, can I divide those numbers up by 3? So Sky, what we'd want to know is, what's your caloric ceiling if you want to work it out based on 80-20, right? So here's the thing, right? So the beauty of BBBE is you don't have to track calories. You don't have to track quantity. Does it work for everybody? No. But does it work for most people? Yeah. Because really, honestly, most people get tired of eating before they exceed their calorie ceiling if they eat such a limited diet. That being said, if you want to make sure you're getting 80-20, then the math comes in, right? So if you don't want to lose weight, if you just want to make sure you're eating well and you do better on high fat, then I would say you can look at it this way. Aim for getting more grams of fat than grams of protein, and then eat to hunger 2 to 3 meals a day. And then if you've got more grams of fat than you've got grams of protein, then you're eating at least 70% fat. So if your protein and fat are 1-1, your diet is about 60 to 65% fat if you're carnivore. Does that make sense? Because that's just how that breaks down. So if there's 1 gram of fat and 1 gram of protein, or there's 20 grams of fat and 20 grams of protein, right? 1-1, then that's around 60. It's like somewhere between 60 and 65% fat. So if you're somewhere between 1-1 and 2-1 in terms of fat, right? You're going to be somewhere in the middle. So if you're somebody who says, hey, I do so much better on a higher fat diet, make sure that anytime you're eating closer to 1-1, you add a little bit of fat, you add a little bit of butter, you add a little bit of cream, right? You're adding a little bit of fat to bump that up. So that's a way to do it without the math. So Sky, you kind of have to decide if you want to do the math or not do the math, right? And so one of the things that I know that Siobhan Huggins does, who's a high-fat carnivore, is that she doesn't love tracking. She has tracked, but she doesn't love tracking all the time. So what she does is she chooses very, very high-fat meats and then always eats the meat, the fat part first. So she will eat the fat off the meat first, get more full on the fat, and then add the protein on top of that. And so there are different strategies, but if you know that you're somebody that does much better higher fat, then I would say either work out the macros and then eat accordingly, or work out the macros of a few of your favorite foods and just rinse and repeat. Don't actually rinse the food off, right? Repeat those meals. Those are different ways to do it. I just lost everybody. Where'd you go? I clicked a button and everybody, there you are. Hello. All right. Let's see. Melinda says, I think I have hormone issues, need to get some blood tests to see. It's always worth getting blood tests. I was really happy getting my blood test done recently because it confirmed some things for me that I needed to know about. So it's always a good thing to check. Tammy says, so I've been doing low carb for 1 week and the scale hasn't budged, which is really surprising considering I used to eat garbage. Will keto help with menopause? And should I be counting carbs and protein? All right. So let's talk about what happens when you eat fewer carbs. Usually you experience a big drop in water weight. Why is that? Well, with every gram of carbohydrate comes 3 to 4 grams of water. So let's say you normally ate 300 grams of carbs and now you drop that down to 100. Well, that's a lot of water weight that's going to come off. Additionally, I don't know if you're going into ketosis or not, but if you go into ketosis, usually that drop in carbohydrates will have a corresponding drop in insulin. And when you drop that insulin down, you end up with a lowered, you end up having increased diuresis. You pee a lot because your body is dropping a lot of that water weight fairly rapidly. And so then you will certainly weigh a little bit less. But it's absolutely true that if you think about it, I don't know if you were eating garbage last week or you just meant a long time ago you ate garbage. And so Kane says, curious, insulin ushers glucose into the cells. What ushers ketones in the cells? Ketones are not stored, Kane. So they do not need to be ushered into your fat cells. Ketones are used. Now, we don't use, I just jumped ship. I'm sorry. Let me stay with the original topic and I'll come back, Kane. I'm like, squirrel. All right. So back to Tammy, which is to say, you're saying, will keto help with menopause? Potentially. So let's talk about what keto helps with, right? So keto can help with some hormonal issues. Keto can help with energy while you're losing weight. It can help with satiety hormones. For some people, they experience some additional brain benefits. So some more clarity. They might have diminished depression, some improved mental functioning. It can certainly help with blood sugar management. And so, does keto help with fat loss? So when you're saying, does it help with menopause? Like, does it help with menopause symptoms? I have heard anecdotally, some people say maybe hot flashes are slightly diminished, and that they feel like, and it is true that high levels of insulin, when you have a lot of metabolic syndrome, right? If you have a lot of insulin in your body, that can decrease the quality of your life and increase some of those menopause symptoms. So lowering insulin is going to be helpful. Reversing insulin resistance going to be helpful. What should you be counting? Kind of depends on your ultimate goals. But if you want to be in ketosis, I would say, yeah, you definitely need to be counting your carbs and getting them as low as is appropriate for your body. So, generally speaking, most people say get them down under 20 grams of carbs for a while, see how you do. And then from there, you could increase them a little bit and see how you tolerate a little more carbs. And if you stay in ketosis, if ketosis is your goal. Do you need to count protein? I would say you only need to make sure you're getting enough, and then you don't necessarily want to eat a ton more, but you don't necessarily need to eat, you don't want to eat a ton less. You want to be in range on protein. Can you eat more protein and not cause yourself harm? Absolutely. You can eat a fair amount of protein before you get there. But, if you're like trying to optimize for ketosis, I would say staying between 0.8 and 1 gram per pound of reference body weight is going to be beneficial for most people. So that's what's your goal weight? If your goal weight is 150 pounds, eat somewhere between 120 and 150 grams of protein. That's a real back of the napkin, easy way to get started. Cheryl says, I weigh 126 pounds. I need to lose about 10 to 15 pounds. Cheryl, I'm guessing, is a very small person because that is not a lot of weight. So I don't feel that great on too much fat and I gain weight. Is that okay for keto? Yeah, you don't have to eat crazy amounts of fat on keto. Absolutely not. you need to eat enough fat that you're meeting your caloric needs. But if you're telling me that you feel better on a more moderate fat, higher protein approach, that is perfectly fine. The question I would have though is, are you suffering from something that that means you have to eat a higher fat diet, like Alzheimer's, cognitive decline, certain types of cancer, epilepsy? Like there are certain diseases or conditions where maintaining a high level of ketones will be beneficial. Those people do need to push the fat a little harder. But if you're just insulin resistant and you're just trying to be a healthy older individual, we're all getting older. I'm not calling you out for your age. I don't know how old you are, but we all want to be healthier as we get older, right? So then I would say most of the women that I work with who are middle-aged and beyond, higher protein and more moderate fat, not everybody, but for a lot of them, works better for them to maintain the body composition they are. I have a much better body composition and less insulin resistance on a high protein, more moderate fat diet than I ever did before. So you just got to do what works for your body. Ketosis is not required, but it is beneficial for some. So I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying, is it the primary goal for everyone, not if their goal isn't ketosis based. All things keto with Kelsey. Hey, Kelsey. I'm 5'9" and about 190 pounds. Was curious what your recommendation on maintenance versus weight loss daily calories for someone my size. I'm a 34-year-old female. So here's how I deal with maintenance versus weight loss calories, because they're all going to be different. We're all somewhat unique in terms of our activity level, our genetic tendencies, all that's going to come in. So you're gonna need to know experientially. And so this is what I recommend, because most trackers online, they're just guessing. All trackers are just guessing, but you have your body in your possession, so you can check. So I would, if you're currently losing weight, like let's say you've been losing weight for a while and you're still losing weight, I would look at put your macros in your tracker and look at your caloric intake. And I would add, I don't know, if you've been averaging that you're losing 3 to 4 pounds a month, then I would add about 350 to 400 calories to your daily average. So let's say you've been averaging 2,000 and you've been losing 3 to 4 pounds a month. I would then take the daily 2,000 calories and bump that up to like 2,350, 2,400 and eat that for a few weeks and see what your body does. You'll always add 2 or 3 pounds. Going from going from fat loss to maintenance, your body just retains a little more water weight. Don't worry about that. But then you want to see that level off and continue. Then you've confirmed those are your maintenance calories. So you're gonna have to do, and if you're like, oh no, I'm sort of scooching up a little more, well, then you're gonna come down, right? And so it just, that's what you're gonna do. So you're gonna have to learn it experientially. But if right now you're 190 and you're like, I'm not losing any weight, I've been at 190 for 6 months, you are at your maintenance calories. They have proven themselves. So that's kind of what I would do. So that's how I would arrange that. So back to Kane, insulin ushers glucose into the cells. What ushers ketones into the cells? So different cells do different things, right? So like insulin will usher glucose into muscle cells, into fat cells, that kind of thing. Ketones, though, are not stored. You actually don't need insulin to get glucose into your brain. That's a little confusing. You need it to get into your brain, but you don't need to get it into the brain cells. But you do need, and there are a few things in the body, like if you exercise, that can pull glucose into the muscle cells without insulin. So there are times when glucose can move without insulin, but in most cases, you need insulin to move the glucose. That's not true of ketones, but ketones are not stored the way glucose is stored. So generally speaking, it's a different question. When we're in ketosis, the majority of the energy we're using for energy isn't actually ketones, it's free fatty acids. So just so you know. So ketones and glucose are not equivalent, if you will. Like, it's not like ketones does everything that glucose does. A lot of the energy function of what we use glucose for are now being used just free fatty acids. The body doesn't, it's expensive to convert things all the way into ketones. It only makes what we really need. And since it makes what we really need and not a lot more, we tend not to store ketones. We store excess glucose. We don't store excess ketones because we don't make excess ketones. Oh, I'm sorry you have food poisoning, Tracy. Sky says, okay, I get it now. Multiply the calories of the food. So yeah, so 1 gram of and this is averages, a little different, but 1 gram of protein, 4 calories. 1 gram of fat, 9 calories. So from that, you can calculate the percentages, right? So like, I can put a math equation up there, but it's basically grams of fat. Grams fat times 9 plus grams protein times 9 equals cows. So I just put that in the notes. So grams of fat times 9, do that first, plus grams of protein times 4 equals the total calories if it's carnivore, right? And then if you're trying to get a percentage, like, is it 80, 20, whatever, divide the calories, which is grams of fat times 9 or 4, by the total calories, and then you get the percentages. I used to teach people how to take the SAT, so this kind of math is easy for me, but I understand it gives people anxiety. Docs and Gal, good evening. Just joined the live. Hey, nice to have you. Oh, you're going to the Columbia. Oh, very nice. I will meet you there. Oh, hold on. I didn't mean to. Matthew says, if you eat 1 pound of 80-20 hamburger, you will theoretically be eating 65 grams of protein. So that would be 162 grams fat. All right, then. Yeah, if you get just ground beef, they already do that division for you. Living in Oz, 9 months keto and intermittent fasting most days. My glucose is still running between 100 to 115 after 18 hours of fasting. Is that still high after 9 months? I don't know how to get it lower. So a lot of people have something called dawn phenomenon. So dawn phenomenon is basically that when you wake up in the morning, your fasting glucose is higher because it's being affected by your morning rise in cortisol. So are you still 100 to 115 like hours later? So let's say you get up at 8 and then you're not eating until 10 or 11 and it's still 115 then? Because that's different than if it's 115 at 9 a.m. when you first got out of bed. So that's different. And what do I think? Well, I would say it's a very different experience. If your fasting glucose is 100 to 115, but your average glucose, so your A1C is 5.0, that's one thing. And it's another thing if your fasting glucose is 100 to 115, but your A1C is 6.0. The first one, I probably wouldn't be worried about the fasting in glucose. The second one, I would, because in the first scenario, it's saying for some reason my glucose is high just in the morning, but it's lower the rest of the day, and it's low enough that my average glucose is low. hours later around noon. So, in this circumstance and living in Oz, do you know what your average glucose is or what your A1C is? Um, let's see. Planet Moolah. What do you think of taking I'll come back to living in Oz when I get the answer. What do I think of taking creatine? I think that creatine is one of the best things that humans can take. So I am big, big, big fan of creatine. So those of you who don't know creatine is a supplement. It's called creatine monohydrate. They make other kinds of creatine. Don't mess with those. Just creatine monohydrate. And creatine is we ingest creatine in meat and eggs. It's in a lot of really healthy foods, but a lot of us don't get enough. I would say most of us don't get enough, especially women. And creatine, it has been something that bodybuilders have taken forever because it helps with muscle function. So it doesn't actually make you have bigger muscles. I mean, it adds water. So it puts water into your muscle, which makes your muscle then more efficient. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word. It helps your muscle. But it also helps endurance in terms of how long you can do things athletically. And a lot of you are like, I don't do athletic things, so why would I want to take creatine? I think everyone should take creatine. It's been shown to lower depression. It's been shown to improve cognitive function. And it's been shown to protect the brain in the case of injury. So if you have a fall, if you have any kind of head injury, it has been shown to be somewhat, it's not like wearing a helmet, but somewhat protective against damage. So for those reasons, I am a huge, huge fan of creatine. And I think probably most people should be taking it. So I'm a big fan. But don't get scammed, Planet Moolah. There's a lot of expensive creatine out there. Just creatine monohydrate. You don't have to get anything fancy. Hold on. It looks like white powder. I was going to go get it for you, but I don't think it'll help you. It is a powder. I think you can buy it in pill form, but you just buy the powder. You want 3 to 5 grams, 3 to 5 grams a day. Don't do a loading phase. It makes you bloated. 3 to 5 grams a day of creatine monohydrate. Doesn't matter when you take it. You don't have to take it before a workout, after a workout, whatever. Just take it every day. If you skip a day, don't worry about it. Take it the next day. You don't want to skip too many days. You want to keep it in your bloodstream, right? So it builds up and then you keep it there. But if you're a littler person, 3. If you're a bigger person, 5, whatever. If you're a little person taking 5, you're not going to hurt yourself. Right. Laughing. I know it's got like a little bit of a texture. Like it's a little gritty. But it has zero flavor, zero taste. So I just put it in a little liquid and just drink it and then take a sip of water in case any of it's like chalk. It looks like brown chalk. Yeah. But yes, keep it in its original container when traveling so it doesn't look like you're transporting cocaine. But it is good stuff. I will warn people though, because it pulls water into your muscle, some people will notice that the scale goes up 2 to 3 pounds. It's all in your muscle though. It's not it doesn't make you look bigger. It's just in your muscles, which helps your muscle function. But if you're married to the scale, it will cause potentially you to be like, why am I weighing more? So it's just water in your muscles. Stephanie says, adding it to my diet now. Can I mix it with my electrolyte powder? Yeah, no problem. There's some debate about like, if you take it with caffeine, does it like reduce the effectiveness? I don't really think that's a big deal. The one thing I would say is because it's kind of a little gritty, it doesn't like dissolve super well. So that's why I like to take it in a shot so I can actually see that it's gone. but just make sure you drank it. But yeah, it literally, I tried it in yogurt the other day because I was like, oh, it'll like be in the yogurt and I won't even notice it. But I did notice that it changed there's a little bit of grit in my yogurt, and it wasn't awful, but it was not my favorite. So I just say just drink it. Like some companies sell like flavored creatine. Some companies sell creatine in their workout mix or their post-workout mix or their electrolytes or whatever. I don't remember who does. Anyway, but I buy it from Thorne, which I'm sure is more expensive than it needs to be. I just trust Thorne, so I get them. But yeah, you can put in whatever you want. And I don't even believe that heat breaks it down. So hot beverage, cold beverage, food, whatever, it should be fine. But I think there are only a few supplements that I think are worth taking. By the way, I got this really cool box. I'm such a dork. So I keep my vitamins on my desk so I remember to take them, but I don't like looking at a lot of vitamin boxes. So I got this little box that has little vitamin E's in it. This was ridiculously expensive. It's from a company called Dosey, Dosey. But isn't it cute? Anyway, so I got this, and it came with the little Dosey things. And so what do I take? So I will tell you. There is vitamin D3 K2. Okay, let me tell you what I think is really important first. Fish oil supplements. I take an EPA and a DHA. I take Nordic Naturals and then Thorne Super EPA. And why do I take those? Because I hate fish. And I think getting omega-3 is very important. And so I take that in a capsule form. If you eat fish 2 to 3 times a week, go for it. Just do that. Just eat fish. I don't eat fish, so I take omega supplements. I have D3K2. What else is in here? And I'm trying inositol. I don't know yet, but I'm trying it out to see if I notice anything about it. So that's what's in here. Anyway, but I really like these little, zippy things instead of little pill boxes. You can actually get quite a few things in here. And I don't know if you noticed, but those EPA, the fish oil pills, they're big. And so those little old people boxes, as Kelsey just called them, they don't fit very many pills in there. So anyway, this would hold probably 10 days of pills in here. And so they come in different colors. So I'm not a sponsor of Dosey, but I thought it was super cute. And then if I'm traveling, it's really easy then to just, take these guys with me rather than having to take my whole everything else. So anyway, that's what I got there. So anyway, the supplements I take creatine. That's not in there because it's powder. It's in my kitchen. I take the creatine. I take the fish oil. I take the D3K2, and I'm trying inositol to see if that affects anything. That's it. Where do I get the zippy bags? I got them from Dosey, the same company I got this box from. They sell. I think you can just buy the little zippers separately if you want, but you could probably get these little guys you could probably get these at these look like they're really nice little zipper guys that my boyfriend has these for fishing. Anyway, but I'm sure they're overpriced at Dosey, but if you go to Dosey, Dosey, then I'm sure you could see what they are and if you want to pay for them. They're pretty sturdy though. I think they'll last. Juju B says, thoughts on why D3 at 5,000 once a week works, but D3 plus K2 5,000 daily does not. All right, let's do the math. 5,000 a day times 7 days is 3,500. 5,000. Hold on. I'm doing math. 5,000 times, okay, that's 35,000. So it's less than 50. But I have heard some people say that one mega dose can be more effective than spreading it out. And if you notice that works, I would just stick with it. I don't know why. It's a little more. 5,000, 50,000 is more than 35,000 by, a good amount. Yeah. But I have heard people say that mega doses are useful for them. So I honestly, that is punching above my weight on that one. I do not know. Nancy says she likes the purple. Thank you. I like my little lavender. They have a bunch of colors, but I picked the lavender out. I am a total dork, Sky. It's totally true. Debbie said, I'm just going to listen. I'm getting on the 101 headed south. Oh, I know that experience very well. It's interesting how we say the in California, the 5, the 101. I hear that's an East Coast, West Coast difference. D asked, what is the word I use after creatine? Monohydrate. MONO, monohydrate. HYDRATE. One word, monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate. Safe driving, Debbie. All right. Ogya is late. Can someone brief me up? There's been a lot. Just ask a question. We'll go from there. Let me see if I missed everything. Everything. All right. D says, I take 50 only when I'm feeling like I'm down with something and only for a couple of days. Interesting, Jujubee. Well, do the one that is effective for your body. The other thing I would say is, are they the same brand? So when they've tested various drugs, the supplements, they've found that brand to brand, there can be a huge difference. So maybe the 5,000 isn't 5,000. Maybe the 5,000 is really 2,000. So it says 5,000 IU, but you're getting 2,000 IU. Well, that's then a big difference. And maybe the 50,000 is 60. So, I mean, it might just be a difference in the actual dosing, because there has been shown when they test these supplements from brand to brand, they're different. Amy said, do you get labs done to show you're deficient in these vitamins? If not, can taking them cause harm to your body? Potentially. And yes, you can get labs done. So certain labs are helpful and certain labs are not. Well, in terms of dosing. So the electrolytes, magnesium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, potassium, and chloride, and even calcium. When you get those tested in serum in your blood, the level that the blood test tells you doesn't tell you if you're deficient unless you're like critically deficient. So here's what's going to happen. In terms of the electrolytes, so those are chloride, potassium, sodium, magnesium, calcium. So your body works very hard to maintain a certain level of that in your blood, which means that if it goes low in your blood, it's going to pull those minerals out of your organs, your bones, like all the places. So you could be very deficient and your blood level looks normal. So you can't really diagnose low levels from serum for specifically the electrolytes. However, you can look at things like brain, vitamin D, vitamin C. So the vitamins, not the electrolytes, but vitamins, you can actually look at copper, zinc, those kinds of things. You can look at the blood for those and see where you stack up in terms of the vitamins. And so, yes, for a lot of these, you can get them tested in your blood, and you should get them tested in your blood before taking certainly mega doses. I will say that I think like 80-ish% of the human population, at least in the United States, has been shown to be deficient in vitamin D3. So some supplementation of D3 for most people is probably helpful. Creatine is not one that you can overdose yourself on. So there are certain supplements where I'm like, I'm not a doctor. Please do not take anything I say as medical advice, but I'm going to tell you from a human perspective, there are some supplements I wouldn't worry about taking too much of. Generally speaking, those are water soluble vitamins, right? Ones that you're going to just pee out if you're getting too much. Whereas other things, you want to make sure you actually need them before you take them. So yeah, so there you go. So it's a good idea to get these things tested. Your vitamin D levels, that's a D25, not a 125. Your copper, your zinc, your vitamin C, your thinking. Let me look at my list. I also would get your iron. You want to get your iron tested. You also do want to get your electrolytes tested just to rule out a problem. But like I said, for those, like for me, I know I need to take magnesium. I feel better when I take magnesium. I have bathroom problems if I don't take magnesium. So I know I need magnesium. So there are things like that. But in terms of the other ones, I would say it's probably I'm just looking for any vitamins that I'm forgetting about on my list. Yeah, copper, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, iron levels. I think that's pretty. B12. B12 is a good idea. Yeah, I think that's it. See, I always forget one or two, but those are good. Sky says, aren't things like D3A and other fat supplement vitamins, don't they require those to have a certain level of fat to be able to use them? Absolutely. So that is somewhere I would say it's useful that your vitamin, I'm going to grab my D. So this is my vitamin D. You notice it's in a little gel pack, and there's fat in it. So there's some fat. When I take it with fat. You can also take your fat soluble vitamins with a meal. You don't need a ton of fat, but you need some fat. So I would say in a meal, you need at least 10 grams of fat to produce enough bile to deal with the meal and getting enough bile acid and things like that. And then that's also going to give you enough fat to dissolve and absorb the fat soluble vitamins. Is that enough fat for most people? Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is I certainly would have a lot of these vitamins with meals, but you don't necessarily need a ton of fat. But that's why a lot of the fat soluble vitamins are packaged with a little bit of some type of fat. The one pill case I actually have out on my desk is my magnesium. So this is the magnesium I take. It is specific. I got a question from Docs and Gal. It's magnesium citramate from Thorne, which is magnesium citrate, and then there's some malate as well. The reason I take this one is, to be perfectly honest, let's TMI moment. Magnesium keeps me regular. So I take this a type of magnesium that has magnesium citrate, which helps you poop. So if I was the other way, where I didn't need a little bit of help, I might take a magnesium glycinate. So, there are like 5 or 6 different forms of magnesium. Magnesium as an electrolyte, as a salt, needs to be as an electrolyte needs to be bound to something. It's just the way they roll. So magnesium is always bound to something. So you can get magnesium threonate, magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, right? Many forms. Don't get magnesium oxide. But you bind magnesium to something else to deliver it. And I like the one bound to citrate because it helps make me more regular. And so that's of benefit to me. So Thorne, you see that? Thorne is my favorite brand. I'm going to say Thorne is a pricey brand, and it might be the reality that I just think expensive things are better. I'm going to be honest. I don't know that that's true. I'm saying that might be my perception, but Thorne is a very well trusted and respected brand. You can find a lot of their stuff on Amazon, or you can go directly to them, but there are other good brands as well. I just picked a brand and I'm sticking with it for the most part. We're going to wrap up here in a second. So yeah, malate I think is fabulous. I'm a big fan of malate. Malate helps with nerve function. So people who have chronic pain, malate can be a great one. Yes, Sky, I'm a girl. I like expensive and cute things. Preferably both. Then Nancy asked, what do I know about magnesium threonate? Magnesium threonate is actually one of the few forms that will cross the blood-brain barrier, from what I understand. And so magnesium threonate can be excellent for some things that you might need in the mental issue. Mental issue? Anyway, whatever. Hold on. I got to tell you something before we close. I'm on my way to Salt Lake City in a day or two, and I'm going to be on Keto Chow's channel doing a live talk at 7:30 Central. No, 7:30 Eastern. 7:30 Eastern. I'm putting this up for Miriam. Thank you, Miriam, for reminding me. So I'm going to see the Bears. We're going to do a fun weekend, and I'm going to be giving a talk that you all can watch on Keto Chow's channel on YouTube at 7:30 Eastern on Saturday. All right? All right. I just had to do that, or I would not do that. All right. Let's wrap it up. That's PM, 7:30 PM on the East Coast. I am not awake at 7:30 AM on the East Coast. So PM in the evening. So that would be 5:30 PM in California. No, shoot. That would be 4:30 PM in California. I can't do math today. 4:30, right? 3 hours difference, East Coast, West Coast. Check out YouTube channel Keto Chow Saturday. I'll be giving a talk. All right. All right, guys. That is the end. Wait, did Jujubee no? I just saw no. Yeah. Yeah. Evening. So 7:30 East Coast, 4:30 West Coast. There we go. And then if you're in the middle, you're in the middle of that time. And I can't do all the math. But phones have lovely calculations on them that you can look up the clock. All right, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.